Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Orange Butterfly Effect. Today, I am here with the extra special Holly Pilcavage. Holly, welcome to the show.
I am so excited to be here.
So, I'm going to introduce you, but I have to ask first, and I know you were not prompted for this question. Do you have a walkout song? The song that you would walk across the stage to?
Oh my gosh. So here's something I cannot answer this question because I am the worst person with the names of anything.
You
That is
can
a
hum
fun
it.
fact about me. Um, you're catching me off guard. You're starting me off the opposite of strong here. Let's see. It would have to be something. I mean, I did, some hip hop dancing and whatnot in college and in grad school. So I feel like it would have to be, if I could give you more of like a blanketed, like, something that you're definitely dancing to, doing some spins, throwing your arms up in the air, which I think is a very millennial thing I'm learning from TikTok videos. Like they can point us out because our hands are in the air while we're
I
dancing.
can't stop. My hands are always in the
I'm
air.
like, every song we ever listened to told us to put our hands in the air. So I'll have to get back to you on an actual name.
Well,
But
I have one for you, and you can
okay.
disagree with this, but I was tossing and turning last night because in preparation for this interview, I was reading every article that's ever existed about Holly Pilcavage, and there are many and many and many. So you've been on my mind. You're on my mind anyway as a friend. But Girl on Fire, Alicia Keys.
Thank you.
Do you know
And
that
that's like
song?
I do, and it ties back to maybe one of the articles you read is that I helped kind of create this 31 Days of Women Empowered campaign for Dress for Success in Boone County, which ended up going hand in hand with our International Women's Day luncheon. And that grew into something beautiful. And we started a few years ago having a female singer, a woman, end the luncheon by singing a song. And the first year that we did it, they did that song, and everyone was like crying, but like dancing. It was this beautiful thing. So that really resonates for me. Yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't know that part of the story, but yeah, that's the song. Like when I was running on the treadmill, I was going through my playlist and I'm like, what is Holly? What is Holly? And I'm like, Girl on Fire, Alicia
Love it.
Keys, 110%.
That is so nice. Thank you. Thank you. Now I'll be able to use that moving forward if I don't forget the name of the song.
Well, you can I'll text it to you so you have it saved, but you can reflect. I'm sure there's another song. You'll have your walkout song. And I'm sure you've had walkout moments before because I'm going to read the list of awards that you've
Okay.
had over the last few years. Okay, so what I like to do is I will try my best to introduce you and then you fill in the gaps.
Okay.
But I have a sheet of notes in front of me and I have to say half of it is just your introduction.
Okay.
So here we go. So you describe yourself, and I would agree with this, as an authentic human, a community advocate, and a lover of plants. I'm going to add on to that and say that you are an aunt, a life partner, a marathon runner, a 50-state traveler, a small business co-owner, a storyteller, one of my very favorite things about you, a creator of goodness, a role model, a friend, and most recently, the vice president of enrollment and management and student success at Luzerne County Community College.
Yeah.
What did I
Honestly,
miss?
yeah. Did you say filmmaker?
I did not say filmmaker. I
Yeah.
was wondering how
So
Black Hole was
that's
going to make its way. I was thinking about that last night. I'm like,
yeah.
how do
And
we
I usually
insert
wouldn't
that
even like
part?
have that as part, but I was like, you did such a good job because usually if there's an introduction involved, it's like, oh, these are all the roles she's ever had. And then I'll jump in and be like, well, my most important one is being an aunt and a
Yep.
partner. And so I think you know me well enough. So you beat me to it. Yeah.
And I was so excited to add marathon runner and also
Finisher, right? Like that's a big part. Like,
and finisher. I didn't know exactly. I have never run in a man. I've never been in a marathon, so I didn't know what the correct terminology was. Like, so that's what it is. You're a marathon finisher.
yeah, yeah. And I learned that because so I wasn't a runner growing up or anything like that. It's anything quite the opposite because I remember being probably middle school when we'd have like field day and they put you through all the different activities that you had to sign up for. And
Yep.
I was like not a runner back then, but I was like, oh, I'm going to sign up for the 100-meter dash, whatever. And everyone left me in the dust. And I was so embarrassed that day that was the day I decided I was not a runner. So it took me like 20 years to wake up and
Mm-hmm.
be like, I'm a runner, and I just started doing the little like couch to 5K, and then I did a 5K, then a 10K, then a half marathon, and then a marathon. And then I haven't really ran since.
You know what? You did. You don't have to. If you never run again, it's you've done it.
Sometimes
You
for
did it
fun,
once.
but yeah, yeah.
And then when did you reach your 50th state? That was recently.
Last May, for my 34th birthday, my partner and I went. Originally, I was using the hashtag all 50 by age 30. Um, I turned 30 in 2020. I think everybody can probably automatically assume what that means. I had
Hmm.
my last two states booked, and it was kind of fun because it was Hawaii and Alaska. So I was going to go to Alaska with Sam, my partner, for reference for anybody that doesn't know me listening. And he was going to fly home, and then I was going to end in Hawaii by myself, just because it was like this moment that I wanted, for myself. And I actually prefer solo traveling. I love you, honey. But he is very well aware that that is my preference. Um, Although we have had a lot of great adventures together. And so, anyways, the pandemic rewrote that story, and that was an adjustment. Something to know about me is I am such a planner. So anyone that knows me listening to this is probably laughing. You change plans on me. It's sometimes hard for me to do that in the moment. Um, so just sharing that because it was pretty difficult, but I mean, there's worse things in the world I could have been dealing with. So anyways, I got to do Hawaii longer and by myself, and we got to do Alaska longer than planned with my partner. And it was really wonderful. So.
So I love that you set the stage to say that you are a planner because things have changed significantly for you over the last few years. So you were a CEO by the age of 30.
Yes.
How?
So
Let's start there. How did that happen?
uh, a few years prior to that, I had moved home. So I had some of my own travels, prior to coming back to Northeastern Pennsylvania. I moved back when I was 26. Um, I started at Colt Creative, but it wasn't like I applied for something. It was like through the connection that I had to the founder. And it was like I was moving home from a 9 to 5 in medical billing, like no hate, no, like whatever. But like that's what my mom did her whole life. And I kind of had this like, oh my God, I'm becoming my mom. And again, she's a lovely, wonderful human, but it just wasn't who I wanted to be or, how I wanted
Yeah.
to show up in the world, how I wanted to serve the world. So I quit that, moved home, and I started like babysitting bartending, and I was just like hanging out at Cool Creative. And I literally, in my first week, identified that there was probably some opportunity for me there and Googled what does a director of business development do? Because it was kind of like, oh, I could help develop the business. So just kind of slapped a title on. So I basically Googled that. We put it out there. A little bit of fake it till you make it with the company, which I mean, with any startup, really, you just kind of start from the ground up. And at the time, we were all contractors working part time. I don't know if this is appropriate to say, drinking beers on a Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. because we didn't have enough work to fill in the day, just that kind of
Yes.
thing. And slowly but surely, you get in the right rooms. You look at specifically for that company, it was let's not say we're a one-stop shop because we want to be good at all the things we do offer. So we kind of pulled back and looked at what services do we offer. It was getting the right people on the team, right? And I'm not going to say I was solely responsible for inviting the right people, the right contractors or freelancers. That was definitely a group effort. But over time, you know, I'm the left side of the brain and a
Hmm.
creative company with a lot of right side of the brains. Not that they didn't have a little bit of both, but let the right side of the brain people, the creative people do what they're best at. Let me do what I'm best at. And
Yep.
that synergy, like that just came together. And again, in the beginning, and it's not always the most fun. You do say yes to kind of everything, even if it means not having the best partners in the process or, not always doing your best work, but lessons learned, right? Like, let's not do that again. Or if we want to do that again, how do we improve or, deliver that service better? So it was just a lot of trial and error, sharing the successes, working through the failures and kind of, I mean, a lot of people don't even know, like I was part-time in that for a long time. I had a 6-month stint with the the Wilkes-Barre Chamber, now the Greater Weldon Valley Chamber, with
Hmm.
their Wilkes-Barre Connect program. I was bartending and waitressing in Trucksville at Checkerboard, and like it was a lot in the first few years, and then it was kind of this pivotal moment. I do like to share this for me personally, where I had the opportunity to take a full-time job with the chamber, or I had the opportunity to take a full-time job taking over Full Creative under the title of, I think at the time, director of operations. So not even CEO yet, but our founder was had started a second company and was going off to focus on that full time. And so
Hmm.
they'd asked me, and I had that moment of, and for anyone that knows me, they know I love the chamber. I'm literally the vice chair of the board, all of that. My life would have been wonderful, I think, if I said yes to that. But I had that like, oh, the stability, the healthcare, all of the things the chamber could have offered, or the uncertainty of where this, small growing startup business might be in 6 months from now. Um, my mom called me crazy at the time. I wasn't an owner. I did work up, over the years to gaining my ownership in the company. But my mom was like, you don't own this, but you act like it. And I was hurting myself financially over this. And I just took the leap. I was like, I know sometimes, especially with talking and mentoring other people, either, my age or younger, you do want to be mindful. Sometimes our intuition is right. Sometimes it's not right. But sometimes I think we do commit, and we do have to be honest when something isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel that way, and I guess it could have went either way. But I'm glad I was right in this one instance. Took that leap, and I guess the rest is history. I don't want to get too in the weeds, but that's kind of worked my way up to CEO, then co-owner, and then ultimately left. So, and a lot of details in between. Yeah.
So tell me, little girl Holly, did she think that she was going to be a CEO at the age of 30?
I don't know if little girl Holly did, but I'm a saver of a lot of things. So like every birthday card I have saved, if you've ever given me one, when people give me little gifts or handmade type things. And when I was in higher ed back in the day, kind of a
Mm-hmm.
full circle moment at the college for me now. When I was in grad school, we would do those fun boards, and I'm sure Michelle, working in colleges. They do the fun boards where it's like get to know the staff or get to know the
Oh,
student,
yeah,
like
sure.
the leadership team of the the programming board, whatever. So we did that when I first started at grad school, and my like future goal or dream or whatever was like to own a business one day. So maybe it wasn't to be a CEO, but kind of always had that goal, and I put it in writing, you know, on my little like to life to do list, I guess, like the bucket list, as most people would call it. Um, so CEO, not so much. I will say younger version of Holly, like 20s version, really cared about the tech build, right? Really cared
Mm.
about accolades. And then uh, I hit 30 and something just clicked, and I was like, oh no, it actually matters how I feel. Like
Yeah,
all of
that
the,
thing,
yeah,
being well.
yeah. And I mean, that comes from, I know we're all raised in different ways, but and we don't have to get too deep in this either, but it really came down to when I was younger. I got a lot of love and attention when I got the straight A's and I got the president role of whatever group I was in. So I think a lot of us learn that when we're little, right? Like, oh, do good and get the gold star and you'll kind of be talked about or loved. It was a little bit conditional,
Yep.
unfortunately. So that was kind of how I was still riding uh, through my 20s. And then it kind of clicked when I, was able to intentionally surround myself with people that really love and care for me and in all of the ways I truly need it, that I realized like, oh, there's so much more to carrying a certain title or anything along those lines. Yeah.
Did you find any freedom in that? Do you feel like maybe some of the decisions you've made I know you're still in your early 30s, but after you had some time to reflect on why you were so high
Yeah.
achieving?
Well, thanks for saying that. 'Cause I am 35, which I guess is technically mid 30s, which I totally own. I love getting older. Um, which is a funny thing for someone who is like totally afraid of an unlived life and dying at the end of the day. But it's just like I love getting older because I don't know. I love my birthday and all of that. But yes, there was, I mean, even now, like figuring out what I wanted to do after I left Whole Creative. And I know we'll probably also get to Evergreen. How I opened a
Hmm.
plant shop in the midst of all of that, and now that's closing, and our last day is literally like a week from now, and pending, I guess, whenever this goes live. Um, but I took that time. I wasn't very externally, like I was like, oh, I'm job searching. Oh, I'm whatever. I just wanted to. I think the lesson I learned was one, like, how do I want to feel? How do I want to make an impact, no matter what the title is, right? Um, but I also don't want to be a liar. Part of it was my priorities changed, like in my personal life, and
Yeah.
I wanted to make more money, and I wanted to feel like the value I was bringing. And this is a tough balance for me because I have my own money block. And I just started listening to your most recent episode that you put out about how to be a badass. One of my
Yes, the
favorite books,
best.
how to be a badass at making money. One of
Yep.
her other books. I listened to
Mm-hmm.
it 4 times in a row after because I listened to it once and I just kept listening to it.
It's so
Um,
good.
yeah, I have a lot of my own like blocks and whatnot to work around that, and I will be somebody. I would never say like just go for the money. I think it needs to be like this healthy balance. Um, and I'm probably tangenting a little bit, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I had this like unlearned. I did this unlearning. I did this healing, and I was able to better connect with like one. I know I have an expectation of what I would like to make and how I would like to exchange my time for a value, whatever. But also,
Mm-hmm.
um, I wasn't necessarily in any of the conversations that I was having or when figuring out and ultimately ending up here at the college. It wasn't okay. Well, what's the title? It was like, what does the organization do? Who will I be serving? How will I be making an impact? So I think that that was really important for me to go through whatever I went through, 5+ years ago with that.
For sure. But anyway, so thinking about aging gracefully and how life is a gift to us, I just had Chris Jones on the podcast and he was talking about legacy in regards to business. But I think what you just shared really speaks to you building your own legacy. Who are you to serve? What are you doing day in and day out? What are you spending your time doing? And why does it really matter? I'm also starting to shift my focus in that way, and it's such a blessing to have that mindset early because I think a lot of my mentors have shared that they may have not discovered that until their late 40s or 50s, that was something that was important.
Yeah, and I think it's funny. I say I like to talk to people. I do not mean that I like to be at an event where there's 50 people or networking or a lot of people at once, but like this. I like
Yeah,
coffee dates. I like sitting down one on one, maybe two on one, and having those conversations. And I feel like we knew each other back in my Project Wednesday days too, right? So
oh yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. That whole era of my life as well. Um, if you're listening in, I kind of have like a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. I'm still
just
trying to figure
oh
out
just a sprinkle.
just a little sprinkle. Um, but it was really that like I just love when I don't know. I don't think you have to do anything grandiose in your life to make it have meaning or whatever like your life is supposed to be. I hope I'm saying that in a clear way. Like I think a big part of Project Wednesday, which was essentially a writing platform, at its peak had about 80 writers from around the world. And all I asked was write about the random Tuesday you had, and like what's the lesson you took away from it? It could have been a hardship. It could have just been a typical day. You know what I mean? And I feel like that really resonated with people because, um, I don't know, on a human level, sometimes we just want to know, like, oh, I'm not the only one, experiencing that or feeling the mundane life or whatever it might be, or the hardship that I'm going through. Yeah, I want to say this appropriately because I'm in my new role. In the past, it was really easy for me to become like whatever my job was. Like that was who I was. And I'm still trying to balance that, right? Like I'm going back onto events and no matter what, I'm obviously going to now have this LCCC hat on, but I'm going because like Holly wants to go as well. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to
Of
find that
course.
balance and um, I promised to my leadership team when I have to work hard and stay late, I'll do those things. But like I'm leaving at 4 o'clock. Like and I'm not answering emails till 8 o'clock the next day. Like things like I'm just think the boundaries and it's a part of my life. It's something I do in my day. And then I go
Yeah.
home and I have another part of my day. And I have the dinner with my partner and we do our 3 mile walk and we hang out with the you know what I mean? Like and it sounds so simple, but it's I think a lot of us maybe I don't want to stereotype or anything like we have I think we struggle with that like that
Oh,
is
of course. It's the
you know
greatest challenge. And I
yeah
know people say now there never is work-life balance. There are a lot of scholars and authors who make that argument. But what I try and my position on it is, I think that we can find alignment in our lives, and that's where that balance comes from. And what you described, you can compartmentalize all of these things so you're showing up as Holly, as your best self, regardless of the situation you're in. If you are in the office at 7 o'clock a.m., or if you're at home with Sam and the animals, you are still Holly, and you're still present and performing at your best.
Exactly. And as we know, our best today different than our best tomorrow and our best yesterday.
It is. And so I took a quote from Girl on Fire because I thought this may come up. But every time I've seen you in a public setting, I was so shocked to read that you describe yourself as an introvert.
Yeah,
Maybe we've had that conversation before, but the quote is, looks like a girl, but she's a flame. And every room I've been in with you, you are just like this flame. You just float through so gracefully. In the description of being an authentic human, you're just you. So just from an outside perspective looking in, that is how you show up. And I know you said you're kind of figuring that out later on, but even when I knew you during Project Wednesday days, it's like you were just this flame.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I. It's funny. Any event, if I see someone I know, I latch onto them, and I think again, I did a lot of work on doing a lot of one-on-ones or smaller group type things, so that when I'm in a room, and our air, like not that there's still so many people to meet, but some things that you go to, a lot of the same people are at. And so
Sure.
I did the work to be able to be in rooms, to be comfortable, because I'm like, oh, I talk to you outside of this. I talk to you outside of this. I talk to you outside of this. So if I'm tricking everybody into believing I'm just this confident person that can walk into a room and talk to anybody, it's because I did work behind the scenes to build those relationships, to be comfortable to even show up in the first place.
For sure. And to be more
Yeah,
authentic, right? Because then
yeah,
you feel like you can be yourself.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
one very authentic thing that you did, going back to your poster, is you did officially co founded a small business, Evergreen. So, I have a quote. This is from you. This is your writing that I'm going to read
You might
first.
read it. Sometimes I read the old stuff like on Facebook Memories, and I'm like, I wrote that, so I can't wait to see what it is.
This is actually, you just wrote this. This was
Okay,
very
maybe
recent.
fresh enough. Yeah.
Guys, comma. I don't have to wake up in 35 years and wonder what if about opening a plant shop with my best friend. We did it, and for that, I am so grateful. Do the thing you can't stop thinking about without knowing exactly how it will unfold. You will be better for it. So I want to ask you, how are you better for it? And what was Evergreen to you? What is it to you?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, I'm going to give a shout out to Sarah. We met because of professional reasons years ago, and then she pulled me into this like 6 month virtual. It was based on the books 15 something around leadership, conscious leadership, but it's slipping my mind a little bit. I'll give you the name of the book later. The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. We went through that, and people were, because it was virtual, so people were like in Colorado or whatever else, but Sarah and I lived near each other.
Cool.
And you're probably picking up, I like to tangent on little stories, but I promise I'll get back.
You're a
Um,
storyteller. I described you as that. Tell the story.
when they were, hey, you need an accountability partner during this time together, we were like, well, hey, we live near each other, we kind of already know each other, but we'd like to get to know each other more. So
Sure.
instead of doing like weekly phone check-ins or virtual check-ins like everyone else was, we went on weekly walks. And through this, we went from professional friends to actual friends, to kind of realizing we had one of those like soul ships of
Mm-hmm.
sorts. We felt pretty connected, like maybe we knew each other or were even sisters in a previous lifetime. And so, anywho, life and we go, and she was at her last company. I was building up my company. And, but during those walks, we would daydream a little bit. And it's the very cliche, like, what if, plant shop, coffee shop, book shop, and there's a cat walking around, like a
Mm-hmm.
little daydreamy. And one day I was walking in downtown Wilkes-Barre, and there was this open storefront, not where Evergreen ended up being, but around the corner. And it had the number 117 as like the, 117 of South Washington Street or whatever. And 17 has been my favorite number since I was a very young girl. So that stood out to me. I sent it to her, and she goes, yo, 117 has been following me everywhere. because I sent it to her and I said, want to open a plant shop with me. I don't know if I was serious, to be honest. Like, but that story obviously wrote itself. We ended up getting coffee. We grabbed coffee from a bar down the street. We sat on a park bench and we just hashed it out. And then we were like, let's just have weekly Sunday meetings and see what comes of it. And
Love it.
literally 6 months later, we were opening the doors to Evergreen. Actually like a month late because of a whole, we ordered plants and they all died in the dead of night. It was the dead of winter and whatever. So, a lot of lessons learned. But Evergreen to me, first and foremost, I share that. Um, it solidified what I hope to be a lifelong friendship with Sarah. So if nothing else, and I think we have both shared the sentiment together and to other people, if nothing else, like we're good. You know what I mean? Like we're so happy that we had that experience together. On the flip side, Evergreen, and for those who don't know, it was just a local, I shouldn't say just, but like it was just a plant shop, right? But also, it was in our downtown, one that we both believe in, one that is constantly working on revitalizing itself. And I still do see the vision, and I hope that people still will continue to choose it because that's what needs to happen. People need to choose our downtown,
Yep.
and you might not be the first, but it might inspire others. And um, but it was also just like what we ended up kind of coining as like a little micro economy because we had our Evergreen Collective, and just before deciding to close, we probably had about 30 different local artists and makers in our shop. And it was 530 square feet. So just, everything's peppered throughout, locally made goods, gifts, all of that, granola, honey, tea. Like it was just this really special space. So, and then we would have the community workshops. So that would bring
Yeah.
people together. But again, small space. So it was intimate. It was like when you go, kind of like if you've ever been to Portland and you walk in somewhere for like breakfast and they're like, oh, go sit at the community table. And you're just sitting by a bunch of strangers. It's kind of that vibe that we were trying to curate a little bit. So it was like, oh, this table where 8 to 10 people could sit, you're rubbing elbows and you're creating together. Um, so for me, I had a conversation and I want to call her out and I'll kind of wrap this up with Trish Dickert-Nieves, who in the past has been my holistic coach. And, um, seeds were planted back when I was working with her about, and it helped me eventually take the step to opening this. But she had shared, because one of my blocks around opening a business like this was, well, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't succeed? And she
Sure.
was like, what's that?
No, I said sure. That's always the
Yeah, like
just
so before
what if
before
it
I
completely goes up into flames, right?
Yeah, but we need to stop thinking like that because the business plan wasn't even written. It was just an idea, and I was already trying to figure out, well, what if it fails?
Yeah.
Sorry, sorry. Here's the tears. It didn't fail, right? Uh,
Right.
this was a choice. Like priorities did change, as I have already kind of touched on. And I hope it. And I think your question was like, what is evergreen to me? Besides what it like literally is I hope it inspires other people to pursue their dreams. And it doesn't mean that evergreen will come back in another form in 5, 10, 15 years from now, right? Like I'm not done being entrepreneurial. I'm not
Of
done
course.
pursuing my passions. And I'm so happy I did it. And I learned so many lessons and I already felt like I had an incredible community built around me in this community. And then I met so many more people that I didn't know, as I also alluded to. And I just hope now I'm at the college and you think you know everybody and you meet 150 new people. And that's just kind of, I guess what's guiding me through my life is, being surrounded by different communities and really Evergreen's purpose. And I share this only because I feel like the sentiments have been shared to me with the announcement and whatnot is, our community is better for it. Other people, like they're reaching out to be like, well, can you help me? Can I have advice? And who did you work with? And how did you make it happen? And I'm like, okay, good. Whether or not it's right in this downtown community or not, if they're going to go off and pursue something that their heart has been daydreaming about, I'm so happy for that. So I think that was its purpose was it did fulfill me and Sarah in our own ways, but hoping it inspired along the way as well.
Yeah, and not to be cliche, but I agree that it planted its own seed. Just the fact that you were able to do that and step outside of your comfort zone, and just nothing like that exists in downtown Wilkes-Barre. To my knowledge, nothing else exists. And that just created this really lively experience. So I'm sure something like it will be back. And it all had to start with, it had to be rooted in some way. And you and Sarah did that. So
I love it.
congratulations, Holly.
I want to say, again, depending when this comes out, it might already be out there. We were going to close and we were trying to figure out, because like we've done, and again, I really care about the downtown. I was like, oh, I just don't want our space to sit empty, like we're going to be
Yeah.
paying somebody in there. Does somebody want to take it over? And that's a tough conversation because it's like, do you want to give somebody your brand? Will they carry it the same? Things like that. Um, and in some of those behind the scene conversations, one phone call led to another, and I can't say who or what. And I know, this is like asterisk, as long as like everything looks good in their lease, we do have somebody taking over our space that has a very similar spirit with their own business. So it won't be Evergreen. But I will say, uh, similar spirit, and they do also support local artists and makers. So stay tuned. I hope that we're able to make that exciting announcement. Yeah.
Okay. That awesome. And as it seems like something like that would be meant to happen because there's such a special energy around the space. I wouldn't expect anything less than for it to continue on in some way. But you did it. You are a
We
small
did it.
business
Yeah.
co-founder. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can, is there any, I know you said, and I know that you have an entrepreneurial spirit. Do you still have an itch, Holly? Is there still, do you feel like you could
Um,
start again something somewhere sometime?
it's too soon, I think, Michelle. I'm going to be honest. Usually, and then it comes in waves, right? Like
Yeah.
when I ended Project Wednesday, I didn't like immediately start something else. And I think for me, I'm just trying to find, we were joking before we got on here about finding a routine and
Hmm.
actually helping out with the chores at home again and, and all of that, like I'm this has been such a transitionary year, as you noted. I left my other company well, technically, right in the beginning of February, took some time, um, decided to close Evergreen, but in the process also started at Luzerne County Community College on July 1st. So it's just one thing after the other. So my priorities right now, alongside my partner Sam, we bought land, 25 minutes from where we currently live with our family to build a family compound. We're putting money away. We're creating the plans. We're creating the
Love
dream.
it.
We're creating the vision. So maybe with that, we get to be a little bit like entrepreneurial spirit of like creating something.
Sure.
Um, and I mean, never say never. And I can't tell you where I'll even be 2 months from now. But right now, I'm just going to focus on what's right in front of me. That's my plan. Yeah.
I think that sounds great.
And
And
honestly, sorry, I think I've always been a little bit more entrepreneurial than entrepreneurial. So once I get more comfortable at the college, let's like as the prime example, as my new role, who knows what I'll be coming up with? Hey, have we tried this? Hey, have we thought of that? And so I'm excited to get my footing enough here and to understand how everything interconnects and works to start getting inspired in that way too.
yeah, and that's why I described you as a creator of goodness during your introduction too, because I feel like no matter where you are, you're always creating little pockets of
Yeah,
things, which is very entrepreneurial, right? Maybe a new
yeah,
program, a project. It could be, especially where you are in higher education, you could do transformational things
yeah.
from the desk that you're sitting at right now.
No, I'm really excited. I started in the middle of summer, meaning I really haven't seen too many students. Like I've had one or two conversations, but I know in a few weeks, campus is going to be buzzing again. We have 7 dedicated centers that I'll be visiting and meeting and greeting. And I'm just excited because I mean, as a community college, it's not very traditional, right? We're not a majority, 18 to 22, 24-year olds. It's the whole gamut, 70% part-time, people that are my age and older with families and children and grandchildren. And so I'm excited to meet all these people, see what their needs are, and I can support that for sure.
Oh, yeah. The fall semester, when the campus comes alive, you will be in your glory. It is, I can't wait. It is the best feeling.
Stay tuned. I have been doing weekly kind of updates. I don't know how long that will last. It's been primarily on LinkedIn, but I kind of shared the most recent one on Facebook. It felt I don't know, sometimes my brain works like, oh, LinkedIn versus Facebook and who's on it and who might want to hear this. But I don't know how long it'll last, but I kind of, want to keep the momentum a little bit. And because it's not just about like, oh, this is what I learned in my job, but this is literally what I'm experiencing or feeling as a human who's starting a new job and closing a business and all of these things. So stay tuned for maybe even just a special post if I'm not doing weekly about how it feels to have everyone back on campus. Yeah.
And that's where I pulled your quote about living without regret. And I did want to talk a little bit about that because you've
Yeah.
been through so much that we've talked about already, but it really feels like wherever you land, you're at peace. And I know, so the audience of this podcast are young professionals primarily, but other people like us who are just trying to figure it all out. How do you live without regret?
Um, am I allowed to say, I don't know if it's living without regret or, and I might have said this earlier, a little bit of a fear of an unlived life. And maybe those are
Yeah.
synonymous. I, I don't know. Maybe I should sit with that a little bit longer. Um, I think I'm very aware for whatever reasons. It's not, very fortunately, I haven't had like something so traumatic in my life that I'm like, oh my God, my life is so short and whatever else. And, I only wish health and happiness and peace on all the people that I love. Um, but there is something within me and I'm a little bit woo, so I don't think this is like my first time, my first cycle doing this whole like human being life, living life thing. So I like to think maybe past versions of me or my ancestors or something are kind of guiding me here intuitively. Um, I know it's short. I know something I definitely learned, especially in the last 5 years or so, is I my partner always laughs because the way I word this, but I'm like, I'm the one that has to go to bed with me. Like I have to go to bed and wake up
I
in the
love
morning
that.
with me, like, and it sounds simple and maybe cliche, and I know I'm not the first person to say that or have similar sentiment, but it's like people might, yes, people that knew you when you were 25 have the version of you at 25 and then 27 and 30 and 30, whatever age you're at, right? But they don't all follow along or know who you are now or how hard you work to become who you are or, whatever, your journey might have looked like exactly. Um, I, I don't know. I think I'm okay with failing. I think I'm okay with, okay, that thing didn't work out. Like, what really is the worst thing that's going to happen? Like we could have opened Evergreen and we could have been closing 6 months later because nobody came or nobody cared enough, or, oh, we did that. We ran the numbers wrong because it was the first time we ever had a retail shop and we forgot to, include rent or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's just anything could have happened to make it not work. And so I guess kind of going back to the quote that you shared that I wrote, like I don't really want to wait to, well, it's not really waiting to find out. Like, I don't want to wake up when I'm 75, 80. I mean, I'm very convinced I'm living into well into my 90s, for some reason as well. But I, I don't know. I just really don't want to be like, laying on the bed at that time of my life being like, what if?
What if?
It's really, that's
Yeah.
my biggest driver. Like, I'm not trying to be morbid. I'm not trying to, feel like I'm just saying the same thing and maybe like in circles a little bit, but I want to book the trip. I want to figure out the money. It flows. Like, I did grow up with a lot. I didn't, a lot of people had it worse than me, but I also didn't have it the best, right? Like, so I just learned all about money management on my own in my adulthood. I just learned, and hey, I'm 35 and I'll own it. Like I'm pretty open. I still have student loans. I'm figuring that out, right? And it's just, I'm always battling like, pay extra on my student loans or book the trip to Colorado next month to see Danny Elfman at Red Rocks Theater, which I just did 2 nights ago while laying in bed. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes,
I,
I'm right there with you.
like it's just a little bit of like, you know, but it does, it's a choice. Like you could think about it, think about it, think about it, or you can do it. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's that simple, but sometimes it is just saying like, I'm going to do this without knowing all the parts. We would have never, I think Evergreen is such a good analogy for life and for anybody listening. Like people came in and they're like, so because you know so much about plants, and I'd be like, nope, but I'm going to reframe that for you. I do not know everything about plants. I learned about plants because we opened Evergreen, because I had like, because I was Googling things for people, because I was getting familiar with plants I'd never owned before. If we waited to know how to do all the moving parts and to know all the things we need to know,
Yeah.
Evergreen wouldn't be here today. So I think that's transferable to a lot of other things in life. Like you might not know. I I was just with friends from college, and I'll kind of pause after this past Saturday, and hadn't seen them for a few years. And the one was pretty direct. He was like, I just really need to know, like, how did you go from like CEO of a marketing company and like owner of a plant shop to the vice president of whatever you do at that college? Like, he's like, that doesn't make sense. Like, that's not linear.
You're not
And
linear.
I was like, well, if you look at my entire lifespan from like when I started making my own decisions till now, none of it's linear, right? It's a very nonlinear journey. I was like, I took the leap. Like, I came in saying, I'm going to be non-traditional. Is that okay? Are there any concerns? I've proven time and time again from other things that I've done in previous experiences that I can learn the things that are learnable. And then I also have a lot of transferable skills from those past experiences
For
that I can
sure.
apply here. So I just say go for it. Again, I'll stop there for now, but that's just kind of where my head's at with life in
Yeah.
a nutshell, I guess. Yeah.
I think the fact that you're non-traditional is a superpower for you because you're
Yeah.
capable and competent, of course, but it's like you have all of these secret weapons from the experiences that you've gone through, and especially working with students. I can't wait to hear those stories from you. Just having a student that may have been in a situation that you were in a different era or phase of life, and then being able to show them your nonlinear path to say, hey, it's okay that you didn't go through the motions in the way that we're told we should or could. You can have a wonderful, beautiful, messy, lovely life.
Yeah. Yeah, and I probably should have known this is how my life would have been when I changed my major 5 times in college. Like, I just couldn't figure it out. Like, so I share that because, if anybody, is in college currently listening or just finished and you're like, what was that? That's how I felt. And, I ended up in business management, which worked out, ultimately working in business. But then I went to my grad degree in higher education because I thought I loved my out of classroom experiences. And then
Yeah.
I went into that field and was burnt out in a year because I just was school, 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 school. So, and then you just do a bunch of other things and then maybe you land back where you thought you were going to be, but it just isn't a perfect straight line. And I think that's perfectly okay. Yeah.
But now it is full circle because you're in this VP role, working back in higher education. So for you, it did make its way back
Yeah.
around.
But I promise I had like, I don't want this to come off the wrong way. I had no intentions of coming back to higher. Like when I left, I wasn't like, okay, end of 10 years, I'm going to reapply. Like that wasn't
Yeah.
a part of some strategic plan. Um, I always say I am not a fan of the where do you see yourself in 5 years. I was like, I don't know, laying in the grass, like happy, like that all I'm just like, I don't know, but like, I don't even know where I'm going to be in a year. I mean, I plan to be here in a year, but like, you know what I mean? Hopefully building the foundational pieces of whatever at the family compound. And I don't know. Life is just too. I got to where I am because of a lot of yeses and a lot more nos. That's how I would sum it up. Just what felt right, what didn't. I'm not a big believer in right or wrong or good or bad. Well, I
Yeah.
guess right or wrong, I am. But like good or bad is more so what I mean. And obviously there's the outliers and like the big things that like clearly that's bad or whatever. But in your everyday life, like it's a choice. People will be like, "Oh, is this like a good idea?" And like, it's an idea. How do you feel when you think about the idea? Like, do you
Yeah.
want to go through that door? Like, and I think this time I will say it is that simple. Not everything is that simple, but like when you're talking to yourself late at night, like internally or out loud or however you do it, who cares if it's good or bad? And you know what I mean? Like, does it work for you? Is it something you want? Even if nobody else understands it. I'll tell you, even today, back in higher ed, if I told my mom right now and said, what do I do? She wouldn't know. When I was working at Full Creative, she didn't know. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's someone that's like one of the closest people to me. So, sometimes you just kind of feel like a little bit of a lonely island, but then you invite people. They get in their rowboats, they take a little plane, and then all of a sudden you have a little group around you on your island. You're sipping pina coladas together. I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm just saying, like, you build this little community, and you're not so alone anymore. So,
For sure. And I know that one of my last episodes, I was chatting with Shawnee, who I know is a friend of yours too. And we were talking about how sometimes it can be lonely, not just as a young professional, but I was commenting later on in a blog that I wrote that it's lonely to be a professional sometimes if you're in a field that's not as traditional because it's so hard to describe what you actually do to someone else. But people like you and I know are so passionate about our work. So if someone doesn't understand what we do, sometimes I can think that can feel really isolating. So it's so important to find that community or just to share anyway. Like it's okay if my mom doesn't know what I'm doing every single minute of the day, but she knows I really love what I do, and that's what I try and share. Yeah. Okay, so
Exactly.
I'm gonna brag
Spot
about
on.
you now. Ask you again, Holly. Can I brag about you?
Yeah, you're gonna do it anyway, so let's go
Okay.
for it.
Here we go. So, as I mentioned, I was prepped and ready with my intro, and then I had so much to write that I had to print out this little piece of paper of all of your awards. So, I'm going to read them aloud now. And then I have a question for you. So, Northeast PA's Business Journal's top 20 under 40. Greater Wyoming Valley Chamber's Northeastern Pennsylvania Influencer of the Year. Northeast Pennsylvania Business Journal's top 25 women in business. American Business Awards, the Stevie Awards Maverick of the Year, and TechBridge's Mentor of the Year. That is all you on the big stage, Holly Pilcavage. Now, in an article, you said you were most proud of the very first apartment that you had. So, my question for you is all things considered, what are you most proud of now? Is it still your very first apartment?
Um, no, that's so funny. That's like one of those moments where I'm like, I said that. I'm sure that's funny. That's how like life changes, right? And I'm sure I went on about, and I could, well, it was me, so I obviously I know probably why I said that. Um, I think now at 35, I don't think it's like a thing or a place or business. I think it's like I really took the time to meet myself and learn and unlearn and love me, and make decisions around what it meant to support me. Um, if you know me, leaving Cole was really difficult because of my team. And of course, the collaborators in the community, but really the team, like that I've spent years and years with building. I will never say I have never said, I built Cole Creative, I built that company up. No, group effort would never have existed. And it still exists without me. And that was always the goal. And like, that's the like, right? You don't want something to crumble when you leave. And um, so I share that because that's an example of what it felt extremely selfish. And that was really hard for me to work through. But at the same time, I needed to be selfish. Same thing with closing Evergreen. I first thought about, well, what about the community? What about the collective? What about everyone else around me? And then I thought, what about me? I chose what I would consider the selfish choice, right? Well, it's gonna close because I have to focus on my part. Like, and that's like a weird, like I feel like selfishness obviously tends to have more of a negative connotation, but sometimes it's the healthiest thing you can do, like it, or be, I guess, is to be selfish. So maybe there's a better word for it. I just can't come up with it right now. Um, so I just feel like I've been slowly taking parts of me back, or like because everything you say yes to leaves like less and less room for you and the things you actually care about. That was a big lesson years ago. I don't think I said this yet. I probably knew for about 18 months, um, maybe a little longer, that I probably should leave Cole Creative. Like I don't think anyone can tell. And I would ask some people closest to me, like internally, like, is it noticeable that I'm like feeling disconnected? And they're like, no, we'll let you know, like you have the people you could trust. And so I think it was mostly an outward shock, like, oh, that she owned it. Oh, and it was like, and that's how I got to the Evergreen decision so much faster, was because when I left Cole, and there was a lot of other moving parts to that as well. It wasn't as simple as like, oh, Holly's ready to go. There was a fight left in me, where there were certain things I wanted to do, and it didn't pan out that way. And I'm a big believer in the universe, making sure that things do work out the way that they're supposed to.
The universe
But
listens, the universe knows, and does that for us. I believe that too.
yes, yes. And so getting to the point with Evergreen, And some shifts happened behind the scenes with Sarah and I where she had to step back, and I think she'd be okay with me sharing that. And um, then it kind of lost its magic for me because I did the thing with my best friend and I was trying to make it work, but I just, I didn't have my partner in that anymore in the same way, like for Evergreen specifically. And then I kind of like lost and then I was like, oh, that thing's happening. It feels the same. Even though it's two different things, it feels the same. All right, I have some decisions to make. And I hope each time it gets honestly quicker and quicker. Like I hope um, it's probably a funny thing to say a month into a new job, but if there is ever a time where I feel this way at the college or anywhere else that I may or may not, end up in the future, I just hope I can continue to choose me first and foremost, and um, knowing that I have a deep care for how it impacts everyone around me, if that makes sense. So I think I'm just most proud of being able to get to that point, um, and trusting myself enough, and trusting that the people that love me will love me no matter what. And if anybody gets mad at me for being a little selfish, then maybe they weren't my people in the first place, right? So
I think selfish can be a positive word. I know you were trying to look for a different word, but I do think the word selfish has a just this it's negative in nature, but it is okay for us to be selfish if it means that then we can be more giving.
yes, exactly.
And that's what I think you're doing now is giving to whatever environment you're in because you learned that you're loved unconditionally and can be selfish so that you can show up in the way that you want to.
Honestly. Yeah.
So, advice for those that are currently in their 20s from one that lives without regret and understands that life is short. I think you've given a lot of great advice already. But what advice do you have for anyone who is in their 20s right now, maybe change their major 5 times, however you want to frame them? What advice do you have for someone in their 20s?
I feel like I have to glean from advice I picked up elsewhere for someone that's a little bit younger, because I wish I did learn this a little bit. Um, you're going to have to find a balance of you, obviously, as you're exploring who you want to be. I'll kind of use this as, I guess, it's a story here. At Cool Creative, I started the internship program. I always had a love for students. So started the internship program. And on the first day, I would always say, I hope you enjoy the next 15 weeks. I hope you learn so much, but I also hope you learn if you don't want to do this. Um, so as you are navigating and as you are saying yes to things, because I kind of want to tell you to like make sure it's a full body yes, but I also think in your 20s, you kind of have to like, maybe you don't really have any full body yeses yet because you're trying to figure it out. So if and when you do say yes, um, and you're a week or two in and you're like, oh my God, it's the worst decision I ever made, clock that, write about it, pray about it, whatever you do, and keep that in mind so that the next time you come across, a similar bridge or a similar opportunity, you remember how you felt and you don't take that path. Um, yeah, I think that would be my piece of advice, because I'm not going to tell you to like say no to a bunch of stuff when you're trying to figure yourself out.
Yeah, I think that's great
Yeah.
advice is go through it and learn from it. And that's something that you said to me when I was navigating where I wanted to go in my career. You gave me that same exact advice.
I
And
did.
it's yeah, you did. We were at what was it?
At least I'm consistent.
Something special. Is something special still in Kingston?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I reached out to you. I remember distinctly.
Yeah.
I was working for Sue Riley in the Family Business Alliance, and I would get to the office very early. So it was before we were starting for the day, and I was listening to a Mumford and Sons song. Music's really important to me, so like I always like frame where I was,
So
what I
you're
was
really good
listening to.
at this.
Not really good. I also could not tell you names of songs, especially on the spot, but I know distinctly it was Mumford and Sons. And I sent you this wild email. Like it just came from the heart and the soul. And I was like, hey, Holly, like super admire you. I'm listening to Mumford and Sons right now. And for some reason, this song made me think of you. And I really need advice on what to do next because I was like figuring out just where I wanted to go. And it was during the time when I had race sleeves. So I was like, do I want to continue this? Do I not? Etc. And we were sitting at something special, and you gave me that same advice, and it really stuck with me. Like, you can also figure out from an experience that you don't want to do the thing you're doing. And that's what it was for me with Race Leaves. I'm like, I want to be an entrepreneur and be in business, but this is just not the business that I want to be in. So, yeah, you hit me with that. It stuck and really helped
I'm
me.
glad I reiterated it here. And I will say, if it's like the worst thing in the world, you don't have to. If it was a 15-week commitment, you don't have to see it through either. I know that could let a lot of people down, but if it's like literally not good for your mental health or whatever it might be, like you can leave. Also, I just want to give permission there, um, because I think sometimes we're like, well, I have to do this. I have to do this. I've even spoken to women older than me that I look up to that are like I think one of them actually said, "You made a post about saying no, and I found it laughable because I couldn't say no to anything." And I'm like, "Well, I hope you feel grateful that my generation and hopefully generations after me get to say no, like, and not that it wasn't intended to be a negative, call out or anything, but um, I think we, I know obviously we're the future of all of the things, right? Of all the positions and all of, the life around us eventually. And I think it starts with us. And that was a big thing at Cole, at Evergreen. I took all the things I didn't love about other people I worked for and I brought those with me. And that's how I created the cultures around me. And while I'm coming back into an organization where, there's other I have a boss again, and they're a very large team, and there's a lot of people to get to know. I'm hoping that I can kind of sprinkle in some of the Holly lessons I picked up along the way.
Yeah, you can definitely sprinkle in your Holly lessons. And speaking of that, I know that you referenced this in many different ways, but what is a Holly ripple effect? What is one thing that you've seen or done that you feel like has had this impact beyond you? And I mean, first thing that comes to my mind is Evergreen, but maybe there's something else that resonates with you that you haven't shared yet. What is Holly's ripple effect?
That's a great question. Um, if I wasn't picking like a specific thing, I think a big thing about me, and if you're listening, maybe you'll relate, or if you're listening, you'll be like, yeah, duh, like, because it's second nature to you too, but I'm not just like I'm not just a dreamer. I'm not like, oh, here's an idea. I'm like, here's an idea and here's a plan, and I'm also going to be the one to execute it. And I think that that's how I've been able to get to where I am. It's like always interesting. I think, Michelle, you know me, like I'm like a very humble person, but I also need to like pause and recognize I'm 35 and have done a lot in a very little amount of time. And to even have now or the position I had, earlier, and there's people even younger than me, like a Shawnee who you had on, who like became a director at 23 because it was a no-brainer that they should hire, that brought her up internally rather than hired, but no-brainer, right? Like, so good call, Lindsay Griffin Boylan. Um, yeah, I don't know if it's a specific moment. I think, am I allowed to say, I, in a very humble way, just the way that I've shown up, like I because I'm involved in a lot and I'm around a lot. I will say, and I'm not trying to call anybody out in any kind of negative way, but like there's a lot of idea people. What about this? What about that? It's like, okay, well, who's going to move that forward? And that is sometimes the difference of it's just like how you show up, like in that next step or whatever, the next phase needs to be, is the difference of getting you to maybe where you want to be, or people saying, oh, I can count on her, or she's an accountant, like somebody is what I'm saying making sense? I'm trying to, it's not like a specific thing. It's just what I've carried in anything I've done, which I think it's all these different ways, created ripple effects. I have Evergreen, I had Co-Creative, I had Project Wednesday, the Women in Power campaign. That's 31 straight days of 100 plus women in organizations that I'm hoping, that isn't about me, that's dressed for success, but it's like being a driving force behind that. I'm very proud of that. And it's like, you can have a ripple effect anywhere. I mean, you're always gonna have a ripple effect, so please choose kindness. But I don't know. It's just, I think it's just the way you choose to show up and if you're willing or not to take that next step to make sure the good things happen, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, it makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. I think, and if to summarize, it's you're able to bring things to fruition, which then I think plants the seeds for other fruit to grow in different places. Because if there isn't a Holly who's actually doing it and we all sit in boardrooms and continue to have the conversation about this thing that we want to do, it's great and it's energizing in those moments, but then afterwards, there's nothingness. And then we get back in the room together a month later and we talk about it and we get so excited again and then nothingness. So having a leading force who knows how to rally people around an idea and then actually do it, of course that's going to have an effect afterwards. So that's what I took from what you were saying. It's really bringing that thing to fruition.
Yep, exactly. And Michelle, I know you're involved in a lot of different things, and it is a reality. And unfortunately, I can't move every single thing and from every single room I've ever been in, forward. But I want to share with other young professionals, that's where your opportunity is. Like when you make your way to those tables and you hear those things, follow up in a couple weeks and say, well, did we plan that round table? Is there any emotion, behind that? Is there, because we keep talking about it, or this is what I hear. Can we get these people in the room? Like that's your areas of opportunity to say, hey, how could I help? Or hey, how could I move this forward? Or just the literal check-in is sometimes what they're like, oh, do you want to be involved? Do you want to help make this thing happen? That can be your kind of your in. And honestly, I think that's how I got to a lot of tables pretty early on in my career here back in Northeastern Pennsylvania.
And a confidence builder too, because then the more that you follow up, and to your point, knowing people before you get into a room too, it's like you've already made these real connections and relationships.
Yeah,
So then it's less scary when you're in a bigger setting or the stakes are higher.
for sure. But I've definitely had the moments of holding the mic and it's shaking and I'm trying to make it not seem like I'm shaking while I'm voicing whatever, it is that I'm trying to say or ask or instill or whatever. So sometimes you just, as they say, the cliche but very powerful and do it scared. That's
Yep,
a,
that was Shawnee. The whole theme
yeah.
of Shawnee's episode was do it scared, and I
Yeah.
do
Now link back
many
to
things.
Shawnee's episode and
Go check it out. But really it's I mean, what I love so much about about interviewing people is we're all saying the same thing. It's like there are so many common threads and themes amongst human beings to your theme of being an authentic human being. It's just like sometimes we don't have the space to talk about it. And I think the more that we can say like, "Hey, Holly did this thing scared. What? I was in that room. There's no way in hell that she was anxious at all." And then you say, "Hey, I actually was." Or Shawnee saying the same thing or whomever. It's like, okay, so these are real people that have real lived experiences. So I can get up with the mic because I'm scared too, but I watched Holly do it and I had no idea.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I know that you have a busy day and we're coming up on our hour. So I have one final question for you. Do you want to, well, first, before I ask, is there anything else you wanted to share today? Is there anything else that was on your mind that
It's
you
such an open book, and I took us on 47 tangents already, so I know we covered a lot. Let's hear that last question, and I'm sure it'll open up another story or two naturally.
The last one, well, you can make it as short or as long as
Okay.
you would like. I know that we are recording early in the morning, but what is one thing that brought you joy just today?
Oh, that's such a good question. My I left earlier to get here earlier to start early with you, so I didn't have like the typical 10-15 minute sit down with my partner Sam this morning, and was drinking a smoothie, went in for a couple extra kisses, sorry not to get too mushy or anything here. And then as I was leaving, he was like, have a good day. And then he stopped and said, I'll walk you to your car, which is literally just like he just walked through the living room onto the porch and I walked to my car. And that was really special to me. So that brought me a lot of joy. And I got to think about that during my 40-minute car ride to
Very sweet. Shout out Sam for the walk to
yeah.
the car this morning.
Yeah, he's the best. It's good to have a good support system around you. And definitely I found that in him.
It is. And it's so great. Holly, I appreciate you being on the show to share your experience, but I also appreciate you being a part of my support system for, I think, the last 9 or 10 years now. You have been in my world, but you have
Yeah.
had such an impact. And again, I cannot describe you enough as this storyteller and creator of a goodness, because that's what you do in every room that you enter, in my life personally. And I just really appreciate you being vulnerable and talking to us about your nonlinear path. I think that that will really resonate with people who are on a similar path to say, hey, wherever you land, it's okay. Life is short.
Yeah,
Celebrate where you are. And most importantly, be a little selfish and show up for yourself.
exactly. Well, I just want to thank you for creating the space, inviting me here today, and all of the other speakers and guests that you'll have on and have already had on. It's a really important thing. And I am a true believer in sharing your story and sharing it authentically and hoping it reaches just that one right person, right? So if you're listening, thank you. And Michelle, thank you for creating this space.
Of course, Holly. And to you out there, if you are just that one person, find one thing that brings you joy today. Thank you so much. Bye.